As a survivor of spiritual abuse, do you ever ask yourself, what can I do to prevent spiritual abuse from happening to me again? In this video, I will be discussing one way you can break the cycle of spiritual abuse. My name is Dr. Felicia. I'm a licensed psychologist and owner of Skill Set Counseling, where I focus on the treatment of OCD, spiritual abuse, and cultural abuse. Today's video is going to be within the domain of cultural abuse. So let's jump in. Back to the initial question, what can I do to prevent spiritual abuse from happening again? It's a completely normal and expected question to ask. And one way you can do this is by refusing to put anyone on a pedestal. I got this idea when I watched an interview between Paul Coughlin, who is an author, and Julie Roys on the Roys Report. And Paul Coughlin had been through a really challenging spiritual abuse situation. And he said that after that experience, he learned not to put people on a pedestal. Now, you might think, well, I wouldn't do that, or I don't do that. But there are some factors within spiritual environments that make it easier for people to put other people on a pedestal without even realizing it. When we're in spiritual environments, we are encouraged to believe the best about others. It's an environment that's filled generally with being positive and trusting others, right? When you are in any kind of environment, a spiritual environment especially, you are encouraged to trust the leaders. And in spiritual environments, it is generally assumed that the spiritual leader is talking on behalf of God to the people. And so it is expected, actually, at times for people to just put this leader on a pedestal. And when this occurs, it can be really challenging for you to view the situation that you're in objectively. And I'm going to describe some ways in which this occurs. When you think about putting someone on a pedestal, you are kind of holding them to different standards than you would from the average person, right? Or the lay person in a spiritual environment, or any kind of environment for that matter. And so when you start to have these different standards, when you believe that this person is beyond fault or beyond reproach, it causes you to ignore both obvious and subtle signs of abuse. If I would encourage you to watch my video, I have a video called Enablers of Spiritual Abuse. And enablers tend to do this. They tend to pedestalize their spiritual leaders or certain people in the spiritually abusive environment. And that's one reason why they have a really challenging time accepting that abuse has occurred. And they will say things to the person on the receiving end of the abuse, basically encouraging them to ignore what happened. I'm not going to go too much into that here, but if you watch that video on enablers of spiritual abuse, you'll understand more of what I'm talking about. Okay. And before I continue, I would like for you to take a moment, if you haven't already, to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with others. What this does is it helps get this video out to similar others who can benefit from this content. So if you feel the content that you're receiving has been helpful from my channel, please like, subscribe, and share with one person or more. So take a moment to do this, please, if you'd like to, and understand that it really helps, again, get these videos out to similar others. So back to the issue of putting people on a pedestal. When we think about what happens when we do this, I'll go back for a second. So when we think about putting people on a pedestal, I would say the main behavior that's going on with this is not requiring that person on the pedestal to earn and maintain your trust over time. So, you can come into any kind of environment and just implicitly trust the leader or trust someone in a spiritual environment or any kind of environment and put that person on a pedestal. And so in that situation, you have given that person your trust without them earning it. Another way that this putting someone on a pedestal can occur is that the person has earned your trust, but you do not require them to maintain your trust over time, right? And so you will continue to trust that person in the light of maybe evidence or information or behavior that contradicts what you thought of them earlier. Okay, so that's really, if we want to sum this up, one way to pedestalize people is by giving them your trust without them having earned it or maintained it. And the way this perpetuates spiritual abuse, like I talked about before, is that we ignore red flags. And even if you are not the person being spiritually abused, if you put someone on a pedestal, you may be less likely to react to, protect, or believe somebody who has been on the receiving end of that abusive behavior. Okay, so that's a big danger when we put people on a pedestal. And I think that when we put people on a pedestal, like I said, it's a subtle process. We can even do it without realizing. So I'm going to ask you a question here. I want you to think of somebody who you have a lot of admiration for, and to this point has never shown any reason or any main reason for you to not trust their character. And then you are confronted with undeniable evidence that this person has been engaging in behavior that's harmful to someone else. What would you do? What would your knee-jerk reaction be? And would it be, oh, that can't be possible? You deny whatever you see in front of you because you don't believe this person could ever harm somebody. I think a lot of us, may react maybe some way similar to that, but over time, you'd eventually, if you're not putting this person on a pedestal, accept the possibility that, this person could harm people. When we don't put people on a pedestal, when we refuse to put them on a pedestal, we actually understand that anybody can harm anybody else, right? None of us are perfect. None of us are beyond reproach. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't pedestalize someone, like, let me go back. If you decide, okay, I'm not going to put this person on a pedestal, that doesn't mean you don't honor, respect, or admire them. It's okay to do things like this. They're all people that we honor, they're people that we respect and people that we admire. When we don't put someone on a pedestal, what this means is that we are saying that we're basically kind of, I would say, leveling the playing field in terms of accountability. So we understand that that person, as well as ourselves, can, have the capability or the potential of harming someone, even though we don't intend to. So this is not a matter of motive. This is a matter of look. Nobody's perfect. We can do harm to one another, but at the same time, holding them accountable for their actions, just as you would hold yourself accountable. So another way that someone can pedestalize someone is that they can recognize that, yeah, this person is an abusive person, but absolve them from accountability. So I said something earlier about realizing that nobody's perfect, right? And this phrase is weaponized in spiritually abusive situations, right? I know that when I've worked with people who have gone through this, they will say that when, they bring up something that was wrong or something that was harmful, the knee-jerk response is, well, nobody's perfect. I'm going to ask you to reframe this phrase, nobody is perfect, right? And a way you can do this is think about how when people, you think about accountability, right? When someone says nobody is perfect or when that's weaponized against you, it is used as a way of dodging accountability and responsibility and consequences. However, when you use this phrase, nobody is perfect, in the context of not pedestalizing someone and preventing further spiritual abuse, what you actually say is, yes, people can do harm to one another, but also, just like everyone else, you're required. Yeah, you're required to pay, to make restitution, to be accountable, and to face the same consequences as everyone else. And so when you do this, you are not helping the person escape accountability or saying that they're above that. What you're actually saying is, yes, because I'm not perfect, because you're not perfect, we all have to take responsibility and accountability for what we did. It's as simple as that. You're not going to have lower standards for someone else than you would for yourself. Okay. So that's basically putting someone on a pedestal, what that looks like. And when you don't do this, when you realize that everyone is accountable and everyone has a choice on what they do, then you can understand and you can see things objectively, right? You know, instead of walking into a landmine, you will not ignore clear evidence that that someone is abusive or someone is harmful. So if you would like to gain more information and get some help in your recovery from spiritual abuse, go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, and click on the orange button, or you can also click on the link in the description box. May you have a terrific day filled with peace. Bye-bye.